Welcome back. In Your Money, there's been a lot of talk about the booming real estate market here in Colorado. Recent reports show home prices in Colorado are up more than 12% in just the past year. On top of that, we have seen a report that our real estate market is in a bubble. 9 News anchor Corey Rose talked to a local realtor about those reports and what the outlook is for our local market.
We have seen several reports out lately on Colorado's housing market, but experts say there are a few things that you need to keep in mind. You really need to dig deeper. Our realtor Wade Perry is joining us now. What are the few things that we need to know about these numbers?
First, good morning, Corey. And all real estate is local, and more importantly, we're going to see numbers that come out that say, hey, Denver's up this much or Colorado's up this much. It's really, really critical that you, the viewer, dig a little bit deeper and not just take that number at surface value. The first thing you have to consider is, what are the inputs? Are they just using a particular city? Are they referring to a general area like Denver, but really encompassing a lot of other areas around it? Are they actually referring to the entire state? Is it a certain time period? There are a lot of inputs that go into each one of these studies, and you may get conflicting numbers based on those inputs. So it's important for people to peel back the onion a little bit and not just hang on the headline number.
One such number we see here on this map of the United States. So what are the numbers that we're looking at here?
Well, Corey, right here we are looking at a year-over-year percentage change in price. So the average sale price of a home in Colorado is up 12.7%. Nevada 12.4%, Arizona 8.3%, and you'll see these different numbers all over the map. Many of these states have reached the peak of where they were before the Great Recession. There are other states, take for instance Pennsylvania at only 2.6, Maine at 1.8, that are still in recovery mode, and they got a long ways to go. We need to keep in mind, when we look at a 12.7 in Colorado, that is the average of all of the home sales in the state, and not necessarily just in Denver or in another area around. So we have to pay very close attention that we're doing very well relative to the country.
Right.
But when somebody sees this number, they have to be careful and not think, oh, my house must be up 12.
Right.
And when we see a report like we saw last week that Denver real estate is up 17, that does not mean that yours is up 17. So what we should probably do is look at different areas to make sure that the viewer understands exactly what their house is up.
Right, so let's look at the numbers, because every area is a little bit different. Denver's different than Aurora, and so on and so forth.
For example, Corey, we're up 12.7 throughout the entire state, and there's a report showing that Denver is up 17 to 18, and that is indeed accurate, but Denver by itself is a little tiny speck with all these other cities around it. For example, Arapahoe County is only up 4.7%. Boulder County up a whopping 28% in the last year. Douglas County up only 4.7%, but if you go down south to Colorado Springs, they're actually negative 1%. So all real estate is local. You've got to really get an expert that knows your area before you can hang your hat on these numbers.
So the other headline we've been hearing a lot about is that Denver is in a housing bubble. Before we even get into that, what defines a bubble?
You know, it's a great question, and that phrase is bandied around a lot, and I don't think it's really understood. So I'm going to give you the exact definition. And what it is a temporary condition caused by unjustified speculation in the housing market that leads to a rapid increase in real estate prices. The key word is unjustified, unsustainable. So a bubble is something that is pushed up with a false prop so that then it could be burst and fall precipitously as well.
Okay, we have been in a housing bubble in Denver before.
Correct.
That was back in 04, 05, 06.
Correct.
What's the difference between then and now?
You know, in 04, 05, 06, we had very relaxed lending standards. We had people getting loans with stated income. They weren't actually having to prove that they made as much as they did, or they had lesser credit than they really had. So we had a lot of buyers, thousands of them, that were getting approved for loans that really probably shouldn't have. And when thousands of people all want to buy something at one time, the prices go up. The problem, Corey, was that many of those loans were interest-only loans where they paid a small amount for, say, 3 years, and then they added in the principal and they moved the rate up. Sometimes that payment would double. People couldn't afford it. Those same thousands that were driving prices up all had to sell at the same time. That drove prices down. Unsustainable, like the definition.
Very different than where we are today.
Correct.
You believe we are not in a bubble.
I do not believe we're in a bubble today.
But if we were, let's say, what would make that bubble burst?
Two things. Number one, we're not in a bubble because the demand is not false this time. The demand has been very static. What has driven our prices up this time is not false demand, but rather a lack of supply. There just haven't been enough homes available for sale. So it's a different reason for the prices to run up. If these prices were to burst and fall 10, 20, 30% the way they did the last time, we would either need to see the number of houses available for sale to double or triple virtually overnight, or the demand to live in Denver would become so bad that people were actually packing up and leaving.
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it, and I haven't heard of anybody that wanted to pack up and leave. So I don't see the reasons why we ran up being the same, and I don't see the reasons why it would burst being in place.
I'm so glad you clarified that, because as a homeowner, and I think other homeowners were concerned about us being in a bubble.
The concern is real. The only thing that's going to change is we may become less affordable relative to other markets, and people may not move here as fast, which means maybe our growth rate isn't as fast, but it doesn't mean we're going down.
Wade Perry, thank you. As always, we put all of Wade's stuff on our website at 9news.com.
All right.